Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside ProCents. Our purpose, as always, is to showcase our members, to shed a little light on the value that ProCents is providing to our industry players, and most of all, to let you hear that value directly from our members' lips. My name is Devin Anderson, and I am the president here at ProCents, and I'm joined by the rest of our leadership team, Mr. J.R. Edens, a ProCents partner, and our very own CEO, Mr. Matt Russell. Matt, would you like to say a few words before we begin?
I'm excited for this one. Ricky's been a good friend for several years and with this, and I'm always excited to see what he's doing, and even more excited to learn more about Noble and what that's bringing to the environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, today we are featuring, as Matt just alluded to, one of our ProCents buyers within the ProCents environment, a 3-year board member, and one of the original ProCents members, Mr. Ricky Arras, the Vice President of Operations of Energy Lighting Services, and the recently acquired Noble Conservation Solutions. ELS is based out of Hendersonville, Tennessee. That was a mouthful. And Noble Conservation Solutions operates under ELS out of Anoka, Minnesota. Good morning, Ricky, and welcome to Inside ProCents.
Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon. Good to talk to you.
Hello, good day, Cheerio, Lucky Charms, Fruit Loops, right? All right, here we go. Let's begin, as we always do, by shining a light on you and your organization with a little self-promotion. Tell us a bit about your organization, and then, and maybe a little bit about Noble as well. And then the second part of that question, enlighten our audience as to why you originally chose to participate in the early ProCents experiment, and what value today's ProCents promise provides to your organization.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me today, guys. Energy Lighting Services started about 11 or 12 years ago. Really 2010 is when it really kicked off, but we started doing large-scale LED projects in 2012, and I jumped on in 2013. So I've been there almost 9 years in August, and yeah, you know, our core business model has always been large-scale LED retrofit projects for commercial companies. And whether it's multi-site rollouts across the nation, or we've done some million-square-foot plus distribution centers, actually 3 million-square-foot plus distribution centers. So we've done some of the largest single-site energy efficiency projects in the country. You know, like I said, our core is going to be the large-scale LED retrofit projects. Since, you know, when we were originally founded, we were known as Future Vision Energy, and we wanted to do a little bit more, you know, kind of dabble in a couple of technologies, but we were finding, you know, 95% of the projects we were doing were LED retrofit projects. So we actually changed our name a couple years in and to Energy Lighting Services to kind of clarify our message and what our focus was and what we wanted to be the best in the world at. And then a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, we started our own electrical contracting division. So not only do we do the turnkey project managing, sourcing, auditing, specifying for these LED projects, we're also installing them, but we're also doing new construction on electrical projects. We're doing service electrician work. So really all over the map. And that's been a big growth for us the past couple of years. We're still Our core business is still our large projects, but as you guys know, with projects, it's a roller coaster ride, right? There's no real steady revenue to lean on, and you're either killing it or you're in a drought and you're getting scared. So we're used to that, but it's nice to kind of offer those additional services. And then I think it was late 2020, Jason Duncan, who's our owner right now, found a company called Noble Conservation Solutions that's based in just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So their ownership group was interested in, because Jason was looking to take a step back, and we actually are working out a deal. It should be completely inked this year, but for all intents and purposes, we've been operating as the same company for about a year. But it's great because we're able to share resources, and that's kind of how it started. Was, hey, we're doing basically the same thing. They had a lot more projects, and they have a much larger install force, and they do a lot more electrical than we do. But our operations were really streamlined, and they were interested in what we were doing and how we were doing it. So we've been sharing resources, and I've taken over the operations for all the energy and retrofit projects for them. So it's been quite a busy past year, but it's been exciting. We've got a great team up there, and utilizing our resources here to make them even better, and using what they do best to make us even better. So it's been a really good sharing of resources, and trying to grow and trying to get some more sustainability in this industry. Like I said, if it's a roller coaster, we're trying to make sure, at least if we see a drop coming, we can help each other, and they can do well up there. We'll have a spot here where we got a couple of months where we're not selling much, and then vice versa. So it's been really good. In regards to ProCents, like you guys said, so it's been 3 years. I didn't realize that. That's crazy. When Matt when we were talking about this idea, I immediately was on board, and I saw the value. I know financially was kind of, hey, we could get, some incentives to work together in bulk order, and that was the original idea. But for me, it was always just the sharing of ideas, and the communication, and really having a community around this industry that can kind of open my eyes to new opportunities, new technologies, new innovations, because especially over the last year, when I've just been swamped working through this Noble deal, and having more projects working on, it's hard. It's easy to lose focus on what's coming up, what's new, what are new manufacturers, what are some new deals that are coming out, what's new technology, what's the new standard. All that stuff kind of gets pushed to the wayside when you're focused on making these massive projects work and making sure people get paid. So that's been really great. That's always what I've seen ProCents as, kind of my ability to stay on the forefront and the cutting edge of this industry that just seems to be constantly changing every few months.
Awesome. No, that's great. I love hearing the roller coaster analogy, because I've always looked at it as, everything that you're doing, if you're not doing business, you're probably not having any problems. Within the industry itself, no problem, no job has always been the philosophy. So it's kind of, I always love the new analogies that way. And we definitely, I think that's another great analogy and insight, looking at ProCents as kind of the window into the future. The different things that are happening. We're trying desperately to keep track of that ourselves, but also making sure that everybody that's a member has that ability to take advantage and leverage some of that technology for their own gain. And that's sometimes having the right partner is the key to that.
Absolutely.
What specifically have you experienced within the ProCents environment, specifically really since since we launched in October, that provides the greatest benefit for your daily effort within the industry right now?
Yeah, I think really going back to that ability to keep our eyes on the ball in terms of new manufacturers, new products. For example, Arcadia Lighting, we met through ProCents, and we've worked with them on quite a few projects for exterior lighting and high bay applications, and really just keeping that ability to say, hey, those emails that you'll send out, hey, here's a new manufacturer that just joined the group. Here's what they do. Here's kind of, you really kind of dig down into, this is what we want to know about this. What's their product lines? What are they really good at? Because these days with manufacturers, it's like you can see the same product repped by 10 different brands, right? But we all know the benefits of a company is, the customer service. Of course, what's the, can they do it for a low price? There's a markup there, but is it worth it? And it almost always is, right? Because we've, doing what we do, we've worked at every step of the supply chain. We've gone through distribution. We worked with Matt and JR for a project a couple of years ago. We worked with distribution. We've worked with reps. We've worked with manufacturers. I went out to China back in 2018 and met with a couple of factories over 2 weeks, and we've worked direct with factories. So we know all of the price levels. We know all of the pros and cons of what that means. But we've found a sweet spot of, manufacturers that we get direct pricing from, that we have a relationship with, and it feels like ProCents kind of we realize that's kind of the sweet spot that we all want to be in, right? We want to have that direct relationship. We want to have access to as many products as we can, because we understand that not every project is the same. I may like to work with one manufacturer, but I know that they aren't going to always have everything, and they may be able to sell you everything, but are they really the best at it? Hey, here's another manufacturer that specializes in, say, emergency lighting, or area lighting, or what do you call it, multifamily lighting. So there's lots of different sectors, and we always want to work with somebody that specializes in something, and we want to make sure that through our relationship we're getting the most we can out of that to basically make sense of the additional cost that you get from working with that.
Right on. Yeah, and that's an area that we believe is really important to note too, that what we do as an organization, we're bringing in these different manufacturers, and like you say, they can all look the same sometimes
Sure.
from the outside. And so what we do is we really try to make sure that if you have a need, instead of you having to sift through each one of them, that you come to us, and we help you with finding the right answer for your specification need, to save you time and make things more efficient until at some point you become more connected to them, more sticky, more understanding, and you're doing that on your own. So yeah, that's good information. All right, the scripted side is gone. Let the games begin. Bring on Mr. Matt Russell.
Well, luckily, with Ricky being in the environment for as long as he has, he's seen this, and he's also had a lot of input in where the environment's grown and how it's been sculpted. So with that, the question really comes down to, obviously, having the name change from Future Vision Energy to Energy Lighting Services. You talk about encompassing being energy lighting services. Within the product selections that we have in the environment, what are you most excited to learn about, whether it be like, so I'm not going to highlight some stuff to just give some options: solar lighting, EV charging, or maybe the finance side, or the 179D, because I know you and your team encompass a lot of stuff. But what are those services and offerings that you're excited about to explore more?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I kind of had that in my notes as well, in terms of Brock's our head sales guy. I think it's VP of Strategic Partnerships, but I said he should have just called himself the head sales guy, because that's what he does. He's like, I'm the operation guy, he's a sales guy, and he and I are constantly talking about how are we innovating, how are we adding more products and services. Originally, like I said, we're Future Vision Energy. We didn't do just lighting. Lately, that's been mostly what we do, but it's kind of, if you look at the graphs of the market and saturation over the next 10 years, that's kind of what we're seeing for these just strictly LED retrofit projects. We really need to diversify. I think EV charging makes a lot of sense. It kind of makes me think of, I think 2020 was the year of UVC, where everybody was trying to push that, and that was the hot new thing. Now it seems like EV charging is taking the place of that, right? It seems like that's kind of where everything's moving, especially with infrastructure money and incentives and all of that changing, especially for us, where we actually have our own electrical contracting division that we're really trying to grow. That makes a lot of sense for us. I think it's exciting in the fact that there's new models you can work with, and solar lighting as well. I think that's huge. I think that's something I would love to install more of. There's certain cases that it makes sense, certain cases that it doesn't. I love the hybrid lighting systems where it's either on grid or off grid. You can utilize both, and you can actually lower the effective wattage because of that. That's really exciting to me. A new sector too, like sub-metering. I think that's something that we'd love to get into as well. Any products and services that we can fold under our electrical division to where we can install it, especially locally in the greater Nashville area, or up around Minneapolis. That's kind of where we're focused on, but we've done projects all across the nation. So if we get a great relationship like we've had with certain customers in the past, we've gone all the way out to Washington State, upstate New York, down to Louisiana, Oklahoma, you name it. Most of the states we've done projects in. So we're not really required to be in those metropolitan areas, but that's where we can use our own team, and that's where we really have that expertise and can learn hands-on how to make these new models work.
Awesome. You got another one there, Matt?
Yeah. So, obviously I know you and Brock and Jason fairly well, and other members of your team. But within the environment, what is within some of the offerings that we're now seeing come forth with some of the new sellers in the environment? What is something that you hope to achieve in 2022, and and bring even more of a runway in 2023?
ProCents or through what we're doing?
Yeah, through the ProCents environment, what things can we help you achieve, or have you earmarked it?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this a little bit this morning, trying to figure out how what's an ideal position for ProCents to be within what I'm doing day to day. And we've spoken about, of course, having that finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. That's huge for me, and that's what I've always kind of seen it. But evolving into kind of a better understanding of what buyers need from sellers, and we're trying to build these personal relationships, but also you could look at things like, if I get a big project coming up and I've got a materials list, how do we shop that within a ProCents network without creating competitive environment, but not kind of pointing fingers at each other, right? Not like I want this more than you. It's how do we maybe break up a products list and give people what they're specialized in, some sort of not bidding, but some sort of platform to make that an easier decision. Because right now, obviously, if we get a big project that comes across, I try to get everybody involved that I can, especially within the ProCents environment, because that helps the whole system, right? And it helps create more incentives and gets our buy total up. So kind of wrapping my head around that, I think that could be something that we could look into, large project materials list, how we approach that within the group. Of course, we talked about EV charging and controls, and really trying to get specialists within those spaces. Maybe there's like a ProCents only discount they could offer within the group. I mean, something like that gets a little more incentive. Maybe manufacturers want to have a fire sale, and maybe they go to ProCents first to say, hey, we've got 10,000 flat panels that maybe they aren't color and wattage adjustable, which is the new rage, and we need to get rid of them. Maybe offering that and seeing if we could do like a group buy between buyers to diversify the risk there. Because for what we do, we are pretty much just-in-time inventory. Noble is a little bit different. That Noble has taken more of the bulk ordering when prices are most competitive. And there's pros and cons for both of those. Obviously, you get the lowest price, but now they've got a warehouse full of some stuff that they're having a hard time to push. Whereas with us, it's really when those projects come across and we may hit it at the wrong time, like last year, especially with the issues of shipping and those container pricings going through the roof. If we would have bulk purchased some stuff before, we could have offset some of that. But it's pros and cons. It's just, I don't think there's one clear strategy there. It's a blend. But maybe looking at that as hey, all of us buyers, what are some commonly bought items, and let's build a materials list. Let's share some risk on that big dollar amount, but then that helps the sellers within our group.
That's actually a really good idea. We've actually touched on some of that in some of our previous leadership meetings here, just even in the last couple of weeks. But I think you just kind of took it to another level, Ricky, and I appreciate that.
Sure.
All right, well, great insights. We are definitely proud to have you as a ProCents member. You brought a lot on the board side of things, and obviously your organization is also very active, and we appreciate that. Thank you for your time today, and looking forward to seeing you grow and succeed even more throughout the rest of this year and beyond. Matt, would you like to say a few words before we close?
Well, I'm always excited to get a chance to work with friends. I like to call Ricky and that team there a friend for many years now. So I'm happy that we can continue to work and grow together and build the knowledge base that's going to make everyone successful within the environment and within our own companies. So it's certainly an honor for me.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that summarizes kind of, I think, how we all feel about this industry. It's relational at its core. And you definitely are successful when you have friends working with friends, and everybody working, with the other individual or organization's success, as their guiding light, so to speak. So definitely a good group to work with. Matt had alluded to some of these offerings, but I like to go through this just to let the crowd know what we are actually doing here and supplying. It's worth noting. We're providing LED manufacturers, controls, both wired and wireless, IoT commissioning solutions and IoT products, auditing services, solar solutions, UV and air purification options, EV charging, as was noted earlier, multifamily, as noted earlier, GFCI and USB receptacles, surveillance products, and then services like recycling, lamp recycling, end user financing, Section 179D, and accelerated tax depreciation strategies. And then, as we mentioned earlier, the specification and application assistance that we provide here at ProCents to help you navigate all of those that were just mentioned. This basically concludes today's Inside ProCents blog session. Again, today's focus was on Ricky Arras, the Vice President of Operations at Energy Lighting Services in Tennessee and recently acquired Noble Conservation Solutions in Minnesota. Thank you once again, Ricky, for your time and insights. Would you like to add anything before we go?
No, thanks again, guys. Looking forward to continue to grow this thing. Like I said, I've been here for a while, and I'm really seeing a lot more activity. And I think we're all starting to understand, working together, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And I think as long as we find the right levers to pull between our group, I think there's possibilities are endless. So looking forward to it. Thanks again for the time today.
Spectacular. Yeah. All right. And now, as we always do, we close with a bit of our ProCents culture just to do it right each time. To all of our current and future members, remember, success always begins with consistency. Get yourself and your organization fully connected, then be active, be responsive, always do what you say you're going to do, and remember to support the environment by always first turning inward to support your team members for an organizational need. At ProCents, we make connections that are sticky and that last, and then we get out of the way. ProCents opens doors, and our participants always choose their own path, but they do it together. If you'd like to know more about ProCents, let's talk today. Thank you all once again.
Thank you.